Domestic violence is not loud all the time. It is not always visible, and it is almost never understood by the systems tasked with stopping it. On the inside, domestic violence is about control. On the outside, it is reduced to stereotypes, and within the justice system, it is filtered through definitions so narrow that most abuse is rendered invisible. This is not a misunderstanding, it is a structural failure. Inside an abusive relationship, violence is rarely a single event. It is a pattern, calculated, persistent, and intentional. It looks like fear that never fully turns off. It looks like walking on eggshells, monitoring tone, words, facial expressions. It looks like apologizing when nothing was done wrong. It looks like decisions slowly being taken away. Who you talk to, where you go, how you spend money, and what you're allowed to feel. Psychological abuse erodes a person's sense of reality. Coercive control replaces autonomy with compliance. Financial abuse traps victims by limiting access to resources, and illegal abuse weaponizes systems meant to protect. This kind of violence does not need bruises to be devastating. In fact, it often avoids physical injury precisely because visible harm attracts attention. What exists instead is chronic stress, anxiety, hypervigilance, and isolation. Victims do not just fear harm, they fear escalation, retaliation, disbelief, and institutional failure. Public perception of domestic violence is dangerously simplistic. It is often portrayed as explosive arguments, visible injuries, or extreme incidents. The perfect victim is expected to look broken, desperate, and passive. The abuse is expected to be obvious. This portrayal does real harm. It teaches people to look for violence only after it becomes severe. It encourages judgment when victims stay, return, or appear composed. It ignores the reality that many victims are surviving, not collapsing. Abuse that happens quietly through intimidation, control, and manipulation is dismissed as a relationship conflict. Survivors who speak clearly are viewed with suspicion. Those without physical evidence are told that they have no case. The result is a cultural blind spot that mirrors the legal one. The justice system is not built to understand patterns. It is built to process incidents. It prioritizes physical evidence over lived reality. It favors clear timelines over ongoing harm. It demands proof that abuse has already escalated rather than recognizing the risks. Domestic violence laws often hinge on visible injury, police reports, or singular acts of violence. Coercive control, psychological abuse, financial restriction, and post-separation legal abuse are treated as secondary or ignored entirely. When victims seek help, they are frequently told there's no evidence. This is a civil matter. We can't act until something worse happens. This places the burden of prevention on the victim rather than the system. Even worse, abusers who understand the system exploit its limitations, using court filings, custody disputes, and procedural delays to maintain control while remaining legally untouchable. The system mistakes restraint for safety and legality for innocence. When domestic violence is defined too narrowly, victims are forced to endure harm until it meets an institutional threshold. That threshold is often serious injury or death. This is not a failure of awareness, it is a failure of will. Research has long established that non-physical abuse and coercive control are strong predictors of severe violence. Yet the law continues to lag behind reality, prioritizing convenience over protection. Survivors are not failing the system is failing survivors. Domestic violence is not an exception, it is a pattern. Protection should not depend on bruises, marital status, or how convincingly pain is performed. The law must expand to reflect how abuse actually operates, recognizing coercive control as central, not peripheral, addressing post-separation and legal abuse regardless of marital status, shifting from reactive intervention to preventative protection. And until then, domestic violence will continue to be misunderstood, misrepresented, and missed. Not because it is invisible, but because the systems in place refuse to truly look. And the cost of that refusal is paid by the victims every day.